Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, Cerius Blaq with Cerius Blaq. I'm your host, Cerius Blaq, or CB for short, and I'm here today to do an interview with comic creator Michael Oeming, who has just entered my studio. He's waving hi at you, and we got a lot to talk about because he's got a big-ass history. Mike, say hi, tell the people what you want to tell them first off, and then we'll get into some questions.
Hey everybody, just thanks for having me here, man. Sean and I have known each other for a while, and last couple of years we've been trying to just get together. I think this might be as close as we're going to get because I don't get out of the house much, and I was thinking about that earlier. So, oh no, this is going to be fun. We just get a chance to hang out.
Yeah,
like we've been trying, like me and a million other friends.
right. I mean, honestly, the pandemic ruined a bunch of social plans for both of us. Like,
yeah, I was bad about getting out before, and then that just really broke my habits. Stuff like I used to just like I live up here in Vancouver, and like right behind me is a bunch of beautiful mountains and roads, and sometimes I would just go out for a drive just because it was just beautiful and stuff. And like once you get out of certain habits, like even that I don't really do anymore. And I've been trying to force myself to reclaim some of this older stuff, but it's just hard. And then sometimes you're wondering if you're doing it just because, like, if I'm fine not doing it, then why am I trying to force myself to do it? And but seeing people,
well, that's the thing though. Like, how do we regulate if we are fine? And
I do a lot of self-checking, that's for sure.
Okay.
A lot of self-regulating, like are these my thoughts or are these my chemicals thoughts? Is this my thoughts or is this my anxiety, right? Like, yeah,
my anxiety and I don't know if you ever experienced this, but sometimes I'll have like a mini panic attack when I think I'm forgetting to do something.
Plenty. All the time. Like I'm particularly forgetful. I'm very forgetful, and I have a lot of memory problems. A lot of it just goes back to, like, without getting into it, just trauma stuff growing up. So I did a lot of disassociating, right? And it's not, I don't have it heavy like other people, but it's enough. I think that it's gotten in the way of my ability to pay attention to things. It's like, I wondered for a while if I had like ADHD, like most people do, or like society's creating amongst us with all of our electronics and stuff. But I think it has more to do with this sort of disassociating thing. Like, so things don't even go in one ear out the other. They tend to just bounce right off of me. So I'm constantly afraid that I am forgetting something, or, going into these panic attacks over, what am I forgetting or what am I not doing right? And then again, there's that self-checking mechanism is like, I've learned to do that, and that's been really helpful.
It really is.
If I'm making up arguments in my head, I know something, I'm like, oh, okay, none of this has happened, and I've spent 20 minutes arguing with somebody over something that didn't happen, who may or may not even be a real person, but I'm getting worked up over it, and then it's okay. Now I know what's going on.
Slackers, I think we've all been there, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. Oh, by the way, I call my audience the slackers, or the slack pack. So nice. I'm not dissing them. They're just here with me slacking.
As from our generation, that's a compliment.
Right. It's funny because I was actually just having this discussion with my buddy, and I think I'm a little bit of the opposite. Most people find that I am hyper aware, but I think that's based on trauma. I think it's hyper aware out of protection. I learned to be that way growing up in Chicago, being in all of the things that I've been in, which, we'll discuss that some other day. But it's made me hyper aware and observative. And I think I also, well, my mom believes that both of us are very empathic, but I think I'm really good at reading body language as well.
Yeah, it's interesting how that stuff, like, it can take you in one direction or another, right? Or like I grew up in a very angry household at times, and I went the other way. I went very like, it's hard for me to tap into my anger, right? Whereas other people grew up in an angry household, and their protection method is to be more angry, right? So like you and I, like, we had these different experiences where for me it was like hiding and retracting, and for you it was like being aware and being ready.
Yep.
It's just really, really, it's really interesting how we react to these things.
So, like they say on the internet, if you see my black ass running, you should just run with me.
If I ever see you running, I'm running in the same direction.
Same direction. Just follow me, dog. Trust me. It's funny because we started this usually I start this process with, talking about your career, but we get right into the nitty gritty of, you, which is honestly, I'll be honest, I'm really happy that happened because the purpose of my show is to get to know you. I tell everybody I want to know the creators behind the products that we love because I believe that you deserve to be celebrated as the person that you are and not just for your really long career that we're about to discuss. So to kick it off, everybody knows you for one or two projects here and there, or all of them. You have big fans, whatever. But let's go back to the history. How did you start and why?
Super early on. Well, I think one of the reasons we kind of got into like the mental end of it like right away is for me, that's all deeply intertwined. Like they're the same thing. My mental health and the art and everything, they're all very much entwined. For instance, the way I started drawing in comics specifically and getting into comics was we in the third grade, we had moved from like, or maybe just fifth grade, it's hard for me to remember this stuff. We moved from New Jersey down to Texas, and I did not assimilate well.
Yeah, that's a big ass change, man.
Yeah. And I had all sorts of built-in Northern snobbery that, like, looking back, I'm going like, wow, that was weird. Why did I have those opinions when I was like 10,
Maybe spit the water, man.
But yeah, I was. So I didn't even want to fit in, right? Because I had this sort of weird, I don't know. But like, so I just locked myself away in a room, stayed away from other people, and that's how I found comics, and that's why I started drawing comics really at a very, very early age. So, I got into comics then, and I just started tracing comics and stuff pretty much immediately before I was even really, really drawing. Okay. And it just very shortly after that, I just started handing in my drawings to like the people at the comic book store and stuff. Through that comic book store people, I started to meet others who were making comics, including Adam Hughes, who was living like one town over from me. Okay. And started building those relationships and just learning what a real comic book artist was. So by the time this is Roman. By the time I was 13, I was like mailing out inking samples to publishers. Wow. Through the mail. And I was hired at like 14 at Innovation. I was an inker for a book called New Australia with Tim Truman created, I think. My memory is messy, like I said.
I'm gonna look that up, y'all, because I didn't know about that. Okay.
Yeah, New Australia #2. That was my first. That was my very first published work. So early on, this is why my career is so long. Is because I started when I was 13. There was a couple years in high school where I wasn't being published, but that whole time in high school, I was just concentrating on comics and the artwork. Okay. So like by the time I finally got real paying work, I think I was like 16 going on 17. That's when I just started inking for this company called Innovation. And well, that was the same company actually. But this was like Child's Play with Derek Robinson did. Yeah, we had like one of our first gigs together.
I know about that one. Okay.
Yeah. So that's early on how it started. And I just stuck to that. I was just like a heat-seeking missile onto a comics career from very, very early on. I think because it was a place like I had retreated from everybody and everything else around me. So I like a lot of people, I just became completely focused on the comics and the work. And it was also where I got like self-value, because I just wasn't good at anything else, but I was good at drawing comics, right? Okay. And I think that's why it's also been such an intrinsic part of who I am. Like it's not like an artsy fartsy thing. It's like my whole psyche is sort of tied into being a comics creator, whether I'm writing or drawing or inking or any of it. It really informed who I am to a very extreme level.
No, it totally makes sense, and I see it in you. Like I said, I've known you for some years now, and I kind of knew some of that, but one thing I wanted to ask is like, coming up the way that you did, like, was there a point that you can recall where you were like, okay, I'm good at this? Like, what point did you say like, yes, I should be doing this?
Funny, I don't think I ever thought I was good at it. I just knew I had to do it. You know what I mean? Like it was just the way I've learned to figure out talking about art is it's a puzzle that you never quite figure out. Okay, you know, so I feel like I'm as close to figuring it out as I was when I was 12 or 13. You know.
Do you still like super critique yourself in any way, or like are you your own worst critic, or?
I wouldn't say I'm my own worst critic, because like I am critical of my work, but not in a way that's negative. Okay, you know, good. like again, it's self-aware. Like I know where I did well, where I could have done better, where I was doing the best I could under the circumstances. But I never drag myself. I don't compare myself to other people, whether it's my heroes or my peers, because then you're just going to feel bad, because there's always somebody better than you. And even if they're not better than you, there's always somebody doing something different that you're not doing, right? Like, so it's just a bad pattern. And, you know, having been around long enough and giving advice to other people who get that imposter syndrome thing, it's like, no, whether you just started or you've been around for 30 years, only you are doing what you are doing, right? So, like, it's a waste to sort of like, you know, I want to be like so-and-so, or I see this new artist using this new technique and I should start using that technique and stuff. And it's like, no, everybody's got it. You're your own multiverse, you know? It's like you're your own version of this thing.
That. Like that. Slackers, I hope you're listening, because he's dropping some hot-ass gems right now, okay? Yeah, that was well said. And honestly, there was a bit of a trick question. You know, and you aced it, because that is some of the best advice I've heard given out on how to treat your own work. And yeah, everybody's a little different. And we live in a world where there is a lot of constant comparison for no damn reason. Like, you don't have to compare things. Or like, you know, one of my pet peeves is like, and I think you see this sometimes online, where somebody will make a post with like, one of these things has to go. You know, you only get to choose one. And I'm always like, why?
Yeah.
Unless they stop making it, or like it just never existed, I want whatever I can get my hands on if I can get it.
Yeah, everything has a value that is it's specific to that person, you know, like, and especially in art, like there are some artists whose work I like obviously my favorite is like Mignola. I grew up with Art Adams.
Yeah.
But there are artists who I know can't draw anywhere near as well as they do, but they can do things that are more interesting.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And only that one person can do it that way, right? So like, again, when people get like caught up in this stuff, it's unfortunate. I really love TikTok. There's there's a great artist community on there. Okay. But I see a lot of young people in that artist community getting caught up in, this is how you should draw, or reacting to somebody telling them how to draw, or what they should or shouldn't do, you know, and it's got its own sort of drama thing going on and stuff. And it's like, oh man, you guys, just ignore all of that. You know, you can't get caught up in it. There's no point in arguing with strangers. You wouldn't argue with a stranger on the street. Somebody comes up to me on the street with an opinion, I'd be like, why are you even talking to me, let alone, you know, why would I react to you? Like, you know, it doesn't matter, you know. Yeah.
You know, another artist friend of mine too said sometimes you just have to do the thing. Like, you know, you can't worry about whether it's going to be great or good or whatever. And if you're so busy worrying about that, you might not even end up doing it. So just put it out there.
100%. I mean, the worst thing is like doubt will stop people from doing stuff, you know? Yeah. And that like, so Taki's helped my wife, Taki, you've had before in your show. She's worked with Brian Bendis at Portland State University, like teaching.
Right.
And there's a lot of students that we've seen come out of those classes who talk themselves out of writing. And I've seen a lot of people who I just know, these sort of, you know, I'm fixing to do this and I'm fixing to do that. And like, whether their standards are too high or they're afraid, they just won't do the thing, you know? And if you just got to start whatever it is that you want to do. And you got to kind of be fearless about it. I mean, I learned to do what I do on the job. You know, every job I did was better than the last, you know, and Mignola talks about this all the time. He talks about his early work. You know, he was really learning as he was going along. And he didn't let that stop him. I didn't let it stop me. You know, thinking what I could do better. The point is to just do the best that you can, and you're going to learn each step along the way. And there's nothing that will give you confidence like experience. Yeah. And there's so many people. I love it when people just do it, whatever it is that you got to do, and like figure out whether you have to figure out your own path, or you figure out how to just do it, on your own, like whether it's a comic that you do on the internet, or you just slap together an ash can. Don't let any of the gatekeepers stop you, and those gatekeeping challenges are different for different people, right? So I know on some level it makes it really easy coming out of my mouth and stuff. But also when I started, it was a different time, so, there I was mailing stuff in snail mail to companies, never knowing if it was going to get to anybody, because it would just be to, Steve Rude, care of Dark Horse Comics,
right.
Dark Horse would get it. They would forward it over to Steve Rude or something, But yeah, if you have a dream to make any comics, I mean, it's the most open field to get into, which also makes it hard to stand out.
A little bit. I mean, and there are definitely, I won't say that there's tips and tricks, but there are definitely methods to the madness that, there's good practices that have proven successful that some people should at least try to adhere to a little bit. So, but that's something we can go over, like the dynamics of the industry in a different discussion. But for now, I should probably show people some of your work.
Oh, sure, sure. Never assume everybody knows who I am,
Right. So, if you guys don't know who Mike Oeming is, a lot of people know him for being the one of the brains behind Powers. So, one of the brains behind Powers, which is been it was a long running comic series. Oh my God, what year was that, Mike?
We're coming up on 25 years.
25 years. Okay.
Yeah, so I think we came up basically around 2000. Maybe it was around 2000.
2000. Okay, and so that's if I remember correctly, there are more than 10 graphic novels. There's a lot. I have the hardcovers. So I have the hardcovers, so I get lost in what covers what. But yeah,
I get lost because there's the individual trades, and then we did all these sort of collections, and then we moved from company to company. The collections change and all that stuff, and it's a little maddening, both for the creators and for the fans.
A little bit.
But yeah, it's coming up on 25 years now.
Wow, 25 years. And I don't think I did talk to Taki about this project a little bit, but I'd love to hear from your perspective, how did you and Brian just come up with this idea to start this project about these cops, in this world with these gnarly ass superheroes?
Well, what's interesting, and we could talk about this as well too, about things like success. Success has a lot more to do with timing and luck than it does the talent, I think.
Okay.
So this came out at a time when the superhero genre doesn't look like it looks like now. There wasn't much commentary about superheroes, meta commentary about superheroes, or sort of parallels of superheroes to real society up to this point. There's only a handful of books who did stuff like that. Most of us Brian likes to say we're children of Watchmen,
Yeah.
But even when this came out at this point, there wasn't a lot of sort of meta commentary about superheroes. So we were able to say something that not a lot of other people were saying at the time. And this is also happening as Brian was getting attention from Marvel, and he started writing Daredevil. So he was Ultimate Spider-Man.
Right,
so
that's right. Yeah.
We had these combination of things working for us all at the same time. Now, when Brian and I met, we didn't see any of this coming. We didn't have our finger on the pulse of what does the comic industry need. Nobody knew even back then.
Okay.
And we had met, it was me, him, and I met him and David Mack, who were already close friends together at the same time at this store signing, and we just clicked immediately.
Nice.
And I just started drawing their comics in my style and faxing them. This is back in the days of faxing.
Oh my God.
This is like 98 or something. And you know, we knew we wanted to work with each other on something, and I wanted to do some hardcore crime stuff. He was doing like Jinx, aka Goldfish. Torso, I think, was just coming out at the time.
Oh, Torso.
Yeah. So I want to do that, like just heavy noir stuff. And then he tells me he's got this thing with superheroes in it. And I was like, nah. I don't want to do superheroes, right?
Yeah. I'm good, homie. Thanks.
Yeah, and he was like, no, I promise you, like the superheroes are a minor part of this. This is cop investigation stuff. And at the time, Marvel's was coming out, which was this beautiful book painted by Cross, and Kurt Busiek was writing it. And it was a ground-up view of superheroes, right? So, like, you weren't really up in the sky with the superheroes. You were pretty much on the ground floor looking up at all of this stuff. So that was sort of our point of view mixed with the cop thing. So it was this kind of fresh take. And we expected to last a couple of issues. And instead, because typically what happens is like you get good numbers for issue 1, less numbers on issue 2, less. Even back then, it was
sales thing.
Yeah. So I was working. I had just come out of like a really bad time in my career. I had gone from like digging my way up through the indie comics, right? And I was working at Marvel and DC as an anchor. I was drawing Judge Dredd. I was working on Foot Soldiers for Dark Horse. And then the industry sort of collapsed. There was that mid-90s speculator collapse. So at this point, I was working. Yeah, at this point, I got out of comics, even though I knew I was still going to do comics. So I had to get like a regular job my first time ever. So I was working in a security booth drawing the first couple issues of Powers. And then I remember instead of our issue numbers going down, they went up. And I got to quit that job. And the rest, they say, is history. You know, when we plugged away, and our first year we got the Eisner for Best New Series. Brian's career was blowing up. It was a great time for an indie book, especially at Image at the time, because there wasn't tons of big name creators, you know, putting their books out through there. So there was space to breathe and to grow. Right. And we were just very, very lucky with timing and circumstances. And luckily we held on to it. You know, we never lost our shit. We never sued each other. You know, we became extended family with each other. And the Cops and Capes was a good mix, man.
Yeah, it was. And I honestly, I remember being back in Chicago at that time and shopping at my store. Brainstorm was the name of the comic shop I used to go to. And my homie that worked there was like, yo, you got to check this out. And I was like, what is this? He was like, just and I took it home, and I was like, I had no idea that that's what this was going to be, because he didn't tell me anything. But, you know, like once you open it up and you start reading into this, like almost like cop procedural, but like dealing with a realistic look or aspect at some superhero tropes, I was like, oh yeah, I'm in. I'd never seen anything like that before, you know. And
the best compliment we ever get about the book is like back in the day, it would be this. My wife never read comics before. You know, there wasn't when we started, there wasn't like many women reading comics. It's a different world now, thankfully. But at that point, like one of the best compliments you get was like, my wife doesn't read comics. I gave her Powers, and she started reading it. Or I stopped reading comics, and Powers got me to read it. So it's a great gateway. For some reason, it was a great gateway for anybody who wasn't currently reading comics or had given up on comics. And that was always the best compliment that we could get, was that somebody could just start reading this book and then from reading Powers, like move on to other books and stuff. And that was always the best thing. So it sounds like you kind of had that experience where you weren't told that it was, and, you know, it came together for you.
I mean, unfortunately, I was at a comic shop where they actually did read stuff and recommend things to me. Like, you know, that doesn't happen at every shop. And so
especially back then, you know, every comic book store was the Simpsons comic book store, you know.
Exactly. And if it wasn't coming from the big two, sometimes they wouldn't talk about it or something like that. But you know, my same guy also got me hooked on like Why the Last Man back in the day.
Oh yeah. All right, he had taste.
Yes. He had taste, and it was like here these things. But okay, so I want to move on to some other stuff. I pulled up a few things that I have found, and if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to just pull them up and just have you discuss a little bit of the synopsis of each project and what the future holds, if any, or like, you know, if like some of these are, I tried to go with what I know is available right now, but I'd love for any insight that you can give on any of these things. Okay?
Sure.
Okay. So next up, I want to talk about this because, I mean, you know, I'm already a big fan of your art and your style too. So when I saw this cover, I was like, who is this dude? So please tell us about William of Newbury.
So I have always loved sort of anthropomorphic comics. One of the series I did for a long time was the Mike Templar.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been wanting to get back to that world for a while. And maybe not specifically that world, because I feel like we told this giant story. I want to do something new. And when I was working with James Tynion on Blue Book, he had these short stories called True Weird. And the first story I did was a story that I loved from the medieval times, from the 12th century. There's these stories of these green children that show up in this town called Woolpit. And like the short version of it is they kind of seem like maybe these were fairy children, right? Okay. Part of it was folklore, but it was written down by historians, by a historian at that time called William of Newburgh, who had written the first true history of England at the time. So alongside writing real histories, at that time period is this period called the Anarchy, where there was a secession problem, which is actually all of what House of Dragon is based on, that specific time in history. So he's writing true history, and right next to it, he's writing about revenants, the dead coming back, and ghost stories, because, you know, it's medieval Christian times in Europe, so to them that was just all matter of fact. So I did this short story for James Tynion in this thing, and it's called The Green Children. And then that gave me an idea of like, I want to do more of this world. As I was doing the research, he didn't just write about this story. He'd written several other weird accounts that happened. So eventually I wanted to tell that story, but then I felt like, well, what can really make it stand out? And I was, oh, perfect. Yeah, I can go back to the anthropomorphic world. And there are 4 stories in this. As you can tell, the image is going to get cut off on the side there. So each of those covers connect.
I did not know that. Damn
yeah. If you line them up, all 4 covers connect.
Oh, man. Well, great. I have 5 more covers. All right.
And so each issue is a story retold from William Newburgh's actual historic records. And I just reworked them. And so basically the version that I came up with was I picked a raccoon, which I'm kicking myself over. Because raccoons don't exist in England. And like, while I wasn't going for that level of authenticity, I basically American washed what is a very English cultural setting. Like, I'm trying to be true in every aspect. And I didn't want to draw a fox because my hero Mignola draws these great fox people that I see all the time. And I just kept drawing his version. Right. And I was like, I don't want to do that. So I did the fox, but then somebody pointed out later, oh yeah, there are no foxes in England. But that doesn't matter.
I mean, it's okay. I mean, I think we'll forgive him, right? There's, you know.
Yeah.
Right? You know, okay. No, so basically, there won't be any hate campaigns about the raccoon.
No. Okay. So then, I did come up with the characters, and like I was thinking, well, what would be interesting about somebody who investigates like ghosts and demons? Oh, well, what if they're not afraid of ghosts and demons? They're afraid of everything else. So he's highly neurotic. He doesn't like spiders. He's afraid of dogs. He's afraid of getting robbed. He's super cheap. But you put a demon in front of him, and he's like ready to take him on, right? And then
that's interesting.
And then the secondary character is this thief character, and I thought it would be really interesting to team up a priest with a thief. And yeah, they just go around England and they start fighting zombies and demons, and I'm really, really, really happy with the story. This is the singular thing that I'm most proud of as far as I wrote it, I drew it, I colored it, I did the lettering, and I'm hoping to do more. So if your viewers out there have it in them, please go pick up a copy. It'll help make sure we get to do some more.
And Slackers, I will be putting links to these books in the description, so make sure to look for that, okay? Wow, thanks for that. And yeah, consider me even more interested now. So
yeah, if you like, Hellboy, Usagi Yojimbo, those were pretty big influences.
Okay, word up. Well, for this next one, I don't think I have to ask you what the influence was because it's pretty much in the title. So, Assassin's Creed, Mirage, Sword of Eagles. Did they come and tap you for this because you're already an Assassin's Creed fan, or did you?
Well, I sort of tapped them. This came out of sitting in on Brian Bendis's writing class at PSU, him and Taki, and sometimes David Walker was there as well. I was just influenced by them to branch out and do something different with my writing, because it had been maybe over 10 years since I wrote something for somebody else. Like I used to work for Marvel and I wrote some stuff over there. Yeah. This was the first time that I wanted to do a work for hire thing. And I knew they had the Assassin's Creed stuff. I was actually trying to get on Witcher because I'm a big Witcher fan as well.
Okay.
But they do all the writing internally there for the comics. But then they had mentioned Assassin's Creed, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm a huge fan of the franchise. So this came about, and it was your typical licensing experience where it wasn't the hardest experience, but like the time it took to put together, like it's very different than comics. I'm used to like you got a tight deadline and you're just pounding it out, trying to get to it. The approvals on this took a while, but they all had good notes. They were great to work with. And then this story, it is an extension of Assassin's Creed Mirage. We pitched him a bunch of different ideas, and one of the characters from there is Rashan and Falad. Falad comes from Ethiopia. From at that time it was the Aksumite kingdom. So like I did all this research, like what's over there that's really interesting, right? And one of my favorite places is this place called Abuna Yamada, which is a church. It's possibly the oldest Christian church that exists in the world. And it is on top of like 1,000-foot spire, like this rock formation that's like 1,000 feet straight up, right? And on top of it is this church. So I'm thinking, what better setting is there for an Assassin's Creed game, which is all about this climbing and this parkour stuff and like, and it's historical based. I love ancient history. Doing all the research on that was great. I reached out to, there was a podcaster about ancient Ethiopia because specifically this time period was hard to do research on because there's lots known before the time that this takes place and lots known after. But during this sort of 1830 or 830s, 850s time period, there's a lot that's just not very well known, which was both helpful and difficult.
Did you find in your research that it is attributed to any like big event in humanity in that region, or is it's still
there was a
big mystery?
And then there was just a lot of warfare. So like the kingdom, the Aksumite kingdom before that is pretty easy to research, and there's a lot of history. There's a lot of recorded histories of the kings. There's a lot of cross-cultural stuff going on. So there was a lot of stuff going on with like what was left over of Greece and what was going on with the Byzantine Empire. Like all that stuff was all sort of crossing over. All kinds of like crazy, interesting stuff I was coming across. But during that time period, the Aksumite kingdom fell or was starting to fall. So things were just falling apart. So that's why like getting actual records of it was hard. But the whole point of the story. So I figured out like, all right, so we got this high spot where this church is at. We can do all this really cool stuff. And then, well, that made me think of the eagles, right? When if you play Assassin's Creed, one of the most common things is like you've got these eagle companions that help you kind of see all around you and stuff. So this was I just tied it into like Falad is an eagle trainer in the game. So I was like, oh, okay, so this could be like where the beginning of this relationship comes from. So So that's what the story is about. And we got this amazing art by Marco Kolak. It tells everything almost in. He uses more black, I think, than Mignola. Like everything is a silhouette, and his design sense is incredibly beautiful. So, really, really happy with how it came together. If you're a big fan of the Assassin's Creed books, of the games, I think you'll like it. And just had a lot of fun doing the research. Learned a lot of stuff. Delving into some of the mythology. We retell some. There's an Ethiopian folktale about a bird taking on an elephant, and we got to retell in the story, and some good old fashioned violence and lots of fun and
good old fashioned violence.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. Damn, thanks for that. I didn't know that, and I'm actually curious about that location now. I wouldn't mind.
Oh, it's incredible, man!
Like,
it's
I feel
crazy.
like, given the opportunity, would you go?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I thought so because you made it sound really.
It's incredible. I mean, and like beautiful. So the church has all this, like, I forget the word. Is it Copic? I can't remember the word, but it's like all these paintings from this time period, and you would recognize some of the paintings even because they're that famous, but they go back to like 300. I think it's like to around like 300 or 500.
Wow.
AD, right? So it's like super, super early, and they have the oldest Bibles are there. It's crazy, like the history, and you got a straight vertical climb up this mountain to get up to this thing.
Oh, okay, yeah, well, yeah, I don't think I'll be doing that.
It's shaped like this. It's shaped like this, and you're like literally hand over fist climbing up, and there'll be like 90-year-old monks or just like parkouring their way all the way up.
I don't know. Yeah, like I feel like if I do that, like I better have a kung fu master at the top, like or something.
People have died. People have died climbing up.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Well, won't be me, y'all. I'll just keep looking at pictures of it. Let's. Wow, thank you for that, by the way. Let's see what else we got. Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
I think you're on this project with another buddy of mine, Chris Roberson, doing some work on Hellboy. And
yeah,
I mean, what's that been like? You having fun?
Oh yeah. I think so. This kind of goes back to when I turned 50. I was like looking back on my career, thinking about what I did right, other things that I wish I'd done more of, or whatever. And one of the things I wish I'd done more of was more work with Hellboy and the BPRD. I did one of the first BPRD stories called The Soul of Venice way back, like 2002 or something like that. And at the time, now we look at the Mignola verse and we see how big it is and like, all the different offshoots of the story. And at the time, there was no Mignola verse, right? And I just thought that the BPRD thing was, just going to be a couple of issues and, they'll do more Hellboy. And then, you blink your eyes and 20 years has gone by. And I go, boy, I wish I'd done more Hellboy stuff. So I just got in contact with the editors, with Mignola, and just like, hey, if there's any space for me to do anything else, let me know, and I'm there. So this came up, and it focuses on Susan Zhang back in like the 1950s, and she's investigating the Golden Crane Society, which goes back into her family past. So we get to time jump through all these different time periods of this secret society. Cool. Hellboy shows up. Chris wrote a great story. Chris O'Halloran does the colors, which are incredible. Mm-hmm. And we're just having a great time on it. Mignola helped out with the story. Dave Stewart's coloring these covers. And we're talking about doing more together, whether it's this or some other there's some new stuff we're kind of talking about.
Is there anything in particular that in the Mignolaverse that you would want to do if given a chance?
Yeah, I mean, Abe Sapien, I kind of have like a little man crush on for some reason. I did an issue in way back in the day, and I've got some other stories that I pitched them that was greenlit of an Abe Sapien story. But finding time on the schedule both for them and for me is a thing. But yeah, I just want to do more, just more. It's the one thing where most of the work that I do is creator-owned work, and I'll have fun every now and then doing stuff like Assassin's Creed or work for hire for Marvel or DC or something. But Hellboy Mignolaverse stuff is stuff I just want to be more of a regular part of going into the future.
Okay. And honestly, I think that as good as this looks and what you just described, I wouldn't be surprised if more of this does come from you in the future, because
I hope so.
It's a big like it's got the potential to be like it's already a big universe, but it can keep going for sure. That reminds me, every now and then, back in the day when I used to run a comic shop, I used to like to mess with people. And I used to try to convince people that I thought the title of the book was A Besapian instead of Ames. And just to piss them off a little bit and just be like,
I love that.
This guy reads comics, and
it's like a Aaron.
Right, yeah, exactly. Oh man, you read that new A Besapian, man? That fits just dope.
I love it.
And I haven't picked this one up yet, but I think I'll go grab this one. This next one, I own Mice Templar as well, by the way, and Powers. This next one, I picked up. I think I got the first issue of this when I backed your Kickstarter for the book After the Realm.
Oh wow, nice!
And this was an add-on, and I was like, "Yo, let me get that because that looks wild." And to be honest, I was looking for more. I was in the mood for more space galaxy stuff from you.
Yeah.
Or sci-fi stuff as well, because I was also in love with Cave Carson Has a Cybernetic Eye.
Thank you.
That's my jam. And so I was like, yes, I want to see some Omen science pictures. And that's all I told myself. And then I got familiar with Visaggio, and I was like, oh yes, I like this writing too. So let me grab. I ended up getting 2 copies. So
this thank you for that. And this has a really interesting origin, like the way this story came about. So. Back during Cape Carson, that was the Young Animal line with Gerard Way.
Yeah.
And Mags was writing Shade, the Changing Girl.
The Shade, I remember that too. Yeah.
And just through being part of that line, me, her, and several of the others who were working on those became like friends. I didn't get to make it to any of the conventions that they were at, but online we just started talking. We started, I did a cover for one of her books. My brain is fried right now, so I can't remember. And then we just started talking about projects, and then the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
And what was interesting during the pandemic was this was during the time when it was like pencils down and like books weren't being distributed, and we didn't have other distributors yet, and like it was looking pretty dark. And we were like, you know what? Let's just make comics anyway. We don't know what's going to happen. There was no assignments coming in. There was no real future that you could tell at the time. So she had pitched me this idea, and originally I didn't want to do it because it was like an ongoing thing. And I just never planned more than 4 issues at a time because of the way the market works. But now it was different, right? And we were thinking we would do this as a Patreon book and launch it digitally. And that's a whole other can of beans. It was the first time doing that. It didn't really work out because we didn't know how to market it and stuff. So, oh crap! And we had drawn, and Taki's colored it. I think at this point 4 or 5 issues. Right, we're done.
Oh,
and
wow.
we couldn't figure out how to release it.
We brought it to now.
Yeah, and then we brought it to a couple of different. And let me back up really quickly. One of the reasons why eventually I did it wasn't just because the industry for it sort of collapsed. Was when Mags pitched me the characters in it, and that this is really a father-daughter story, and there's space archaeology and all this kind of stuff that I love, and the setting being kind of a retro golden age or a silver age thing, just invited me to do all kinds of crazy fun visuals to it. So I was all in, and then we were really disappointed because we couldn't find a home for it. Even once things sort of recovered, every company that we went to, they either had a book that was just like it, or they had just launched or finished doing a retro science fiction vibe was kind of going through the air at the time. Okay. So then we just had to put it aside for a little bit and like, oh, maybe this, I don't know when it'll get published, but it'll get published. And maybe 6 months later, like that long of not knowing where it was going to go, what to do with it, we found a home for it at Mad Cave, and they blew it up. It's beautiful, great production. They were great to work with. I drew the first 5 issues during that break when we didn't know, what to do or where it was going. I had to take on other assignments, and by the time Mad Cave came on, like I wasn't able to finish doing the series, so we kind of racked our head about like, well, who could do it? And our buddy Victor Santos, who I've worked with on Mice Templar, and he's an amazing creator.
Absolutely.
Knocked out of the ballpark for the second half, and I continued to do the covers.
Nice. And since I do have a little insight on this one, it's wild as hell, y'all. That's all I can tell you. It's like it's not.
I love it, man. Yeah, it is.
There's a good character development moments here, but it's weird in the best way, and that's all I'll tell you. But
it's again, very character based.
Yeah, I'll put links to everything, like I said, in the description for you folks. So yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one too. Galaxy of Madness. Really appreciate you giving the lowdown on the wild stuff. I got a couple more here. I don't want to just drag you out with like, I got one more. How about one? You got room for one more?
Absolutely.
Actually, two more, because I got to talk about these. Okay, so first I want to talk about this. I want to talk about Blue Book, just because this is, as you mentioned earlier, I own, I think, 2 different iterations of this, I think, at this point, or whatever, and it was like, it had switched up, but like, and is this the second or third time you had worked with Tinian?
I mean, it's really the first time that I worked with Tinian.
I thought you guys did something a while back.
There was that short story that I told you about. That was in True Weird. That was the one with the green children.
Right. But I thought there was maybe I'm mistaken then. I thought there was another small project, and then this came.
No, right. I think this is the first one. Yeah.
Oh, okay, my mistake. But yeah, please.
It's had a couple of volumes to it, and so maybe that's what you're thinking. So the first volume was about Betty and Barney Hill and their UFO abduction. The second volume was about the earliest days of UFOs in America and the early reporting on it. And sort of the whole idea of this is that we wanted to look at UFOs as the culture as a whole. So it's not like we're trying to prove something. It's not, we're not trying to not prove anything. Like it's really just reporting on the whole UFO culture that started in the 50s, which is why it's called Blue Book, because there was this thing called Project Blue Book that was a investigation into UFOs. Although this isn't specifically about that, it kind of covers everything. And just having a blast.
But I can tell though, like this is another one, like kind of how you just mentioned what you did on the Assassin's Creed. Like after diving into this one, I felt like you did a ton of research. Yeah, because I was familiar, like I'm not like a UFO nut or anything like that, but I have like looked into the past and like how these clubs have got started, the old online forums or the newsletters that used to be out back then. There was no online forums, but there was like the
Art Bell days.
Yeah, and I was like, because I don't normally talk to people about that stuff, but you had it in the book, and so I was like,
yeah. Okay. I have always been interested in the whole picture, right? So like when I was younger, it was more about wanting these things to be true, As I got older, I think I just got interested in the whole picture, whether it was like the culture around it, like the psychology around it became super interesting to me. Especially now, like the longer I've been in it, the more sort of patterns you see repeating. And I think this has a lot more to do with psychology than anything else at this point.
Yeah.
I'm still hoping, Taki and I go out night viewing sometimes, hoping to see something, never seen anything. But I've talked to people who've had real experiences, and I trust them. But
I haven't personally experienced anything either, but I have talked to a few people. So
So whether you believe or not believe, I think this is a really good book, the way James is writing it, to sort of entice anybody from any background, whether you're skeptical or not skeptical, or just interested in the history of it.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, again, this is something that I also have, and I appreciate it. I share it with my mom, actually.
Nice.
Me and my mom used to talk about this kind of stuff all the time. It's one of our little hobbies.
I think it's a good gift for anybody who's not into comics but is kind of interested in this subject, because we're not doing it like a comic book, if that makes any sense. The first volume sort of is, but like the second volume is almost like journalistic, really.
I was gonna say it reads like a docujournal or something.
That's what we're hoping for. I mean, both of us were influenced by that old creepy television show In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy from the 70s.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, so that's kind of the vibe.
That's my jam. That's my jam. Okay. I saved this one for last just because I know that there's been some recent news on this as well, and that is United States of Murder Inc. So I did talk about this with Taki a little bit, but this has also been going on for a minute now, and then there's like new additions to this. I'm gonna say this universe.
Yeah.
at this point.
I think there's 3 volumes at this point.
Yes, 3 volumes, and then like oh my gosh, what is the name of it now? Not what do you call them? Not spinoff. It's got a subtitle. Oh my God, what's wrong with me?
It's okay.
I'm blanking. We just talked about it not too long ago. Anyway, United States of Murder Inc. Y'all, good book. Mike, get into it for me, please.
This all started with a question that I have for Brian. I'm going to drop a couple names here. We were at a Halloween party at Randy Bowen's house. And I don't know why I was thinking of this stuff, but I guess I was just doing more research into crime stories. And, this was, we hadn't ended Powers yet, but I was still thinking a lot about sort of the crime universe and stuff. And, a big part of the Mafia story was how the FBI broke the Mafia up during the 70s and the 80s. I asked Brian, like, well, what would have happened if that never happened, if they never broke the mob up during that time period? And he thought I was pitching him. He's like, it's a great idea. So that's basically what happens here. So the story is about, like, what if the FBI never broke the Mafia up in the 70s and the 80s? And they end up basically taking over the East Coast. And then, what's interesting is how, art sort of gets repeated in real life, and now it feels like we're run by a corporate mafia at this point.
Slackers, let me warn y'all now, though. Like, I recommend this book, but it can be rough at times too.
Oh, there's plenty of violence.
Oh my god! I'm just saying this because I wasn't ready. Not that like all of the other books have been like mild or anything, but like they really get into.
I have a reputation.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm a true believer, and there's a time and place for everything, right? So in Powers, there's some evisceration that happens that's pretty explicit. Yeah. This is a mafia story with lots of violence, so there's no reason to pull back from any of it, and we don't. Other books, it doesn't belong at all, or sometimes it belongs, but it's like it needs to be like a PG version of violence, Yeah. This is definitely Martin Scorsese kind of stuff.
Yes, exactly. There you go. That's the way to describe it. I mean, even back when I first read Mice Templar, there's a few moments in there that are just like, well, that had to happen.
That's a good example, though. I wish I had pulled way back on the blood in there.
Really?
It should have been much more Lord of the Rings vibe to it. That kind of violence. Then I went Monty Python, like just spewing, huge amounts of blood.
I mean, you didn't go Kill Bill on it, like.
Kind of. Yeah, there was definitely some Lady Snowblood, sections going on there.
Right. But I don't know. It's still. I mean, it was still. It went with the story, like it was necessary, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it still fit. I think, like in retrospect, we could have had a slightly wider audience in the long run with
maybe
something that was slightly more inviting. Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess
I
have to think about that sometimes. That like there are other audiences that like would be,
Well, but that's also why we did it the way we did it. We don't typically like Brian Glass and I, when we're working on that, we weren't thinking how to sell it. Like, this was for us, and that's most of the books that I do. I do them for me, and then I think about the mistakes later.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm doing here right now.
Later, you'll be like, "Wow, that Mike Oeming was a mistake."
Oh my god! I'm never. But there really should have been more blood. Now I want to get into some of the other main topics of my show.
Actually, Before we do that, can I take a quick break? So I want to feed these cats. That's all
feed the cats. Yeah, go ahead. I'll get some stuff ready.
Take 5 minutes.
I'm gonna play with some toys. Well, she doesn't look that bad.
Bring over here, son. I'm not going anywhere.
Got this little cyberpunk figure, Lucy.
Almost done.
I'll play with this a little bit later. Pretty cool.
Alrighty.
And Steven, I want you to start in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so now I wanted to get back into some of the other main points of my show here. And, you know, we talked about your creative work, and now I want to talk about what you do when you're not working. And right when we were starting the show, you mentioned to me that you were playing this game.
Yeah.
And I don't know much about this game because I just got my Steam account back, and I'm just starting to get back into stuff. But I got to tell you, this looks disturbing.
It's really dark. I mean, it's a classic example they call like dark fantasy. Okay. You know,
Hellblade 2. Okay.
Hellblade 2. Like, so it's a sequel to the first one, Hellblade. It's about this character who she has this Celtic background, and her village is attacked by Vikings, and then she goes on this sort of existential quest to save her lover's soul. She's carrying his head around because the Celts believe that the soul was in the head.
Okay, yeah.
And it's a really unique game, specifically because it is kind of, you've heard a criticism of a lot of games, open world games, being a walking simulator.
Yeah.
So it has a lot of that going on, but in the best way possible. It's basically designed this to be more of a film that you're part of than, you know, an action story. And there's all this like sort of puzzle stuff that you put together. So this character has synesthesia, so she can see things in a different way. And it's been very popular with people who have sort of some mental health issues, who are neurodivergent, and like the creators of the game specifically got experts and guidance on all that to help make this as like, it doesn't feel like an after school special or like you're being quote educated on this, you know. So it's not heavy handed like this. It is naturally tied into the character, but it is very slow paced. You're very limited at what you can do, but it has such a compelling dark story that I absolutely love it.
See, I love that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also done with especially the sequel is done with the Unreal Engine. So the visuals, especially if you're playing on a PC, it's crazy. And I get legitimately scared and claustrophobic feeling when I'm playing it sometimes.
Oh my God! All right, I'm gonna put this on my list today. After this, and go on Steam and
try the first game first, because you'll probably get it like you could probably get it at a lower price. You know, because it's an older game, but it's really good. It's really, really good. I mean, but I'm warning you, like, it is like that walking simulator. This is like you're witnessing a movie that you're sometimes participating in more than.
Oh no, I like that kind of thing.
Yeah, actually, I've been finding a lot of games. There's a couple other games like that. Some other sci-fi games I played like that. That was really surprised. Sometimes it's frustrating because you want to be more involved, but at the same time, you kind of have to want to, you know, be part of it. So try that first game. I really suggest, and if you like it, then move on to.
Yeah, I think I will try that. The other day, like I said, I just got my Steam account back, and I just started Disco Elysium.
Taki loves that game.
See, and I knew about the game because of Ron Chan. And, but yeah, I'm playing it, and I'm that crappy detective, and because I had also watched people like play it before as well, so I knew what to get into. But like, it's a slow paced story, but I'm totally into that thing.
Well, it seems to have really good writing, like just great writing and characters, right?
Yeah, it reminds me of an old game from back in the day. I used to really be addicted to this game called Indigo Prophecy. I think it was on PlayStation 1, and it was like this. sci-fi detective story thing, and I don't know, I've always just been into those kind of things where you just get to play the character and just be immersed into the world. It didn't have to be super action based or anything like that. Just if the story is good, I will stick around.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially as getting older, like I don't always want to be like I really enjoyed Helldivers. I played that recently. You know, it's an action shooter game. You know, but you know, as an older person, like I don't want my blood pressure going up. You know, especially when I'm playing at night, I'm like looking to chill, right? You know,
no, I feel that.
and dude, I'm not always I play on the easy settings because I'm like,
oh yeah, no, there ain't no shame in that. Let me tell you what I was doing the other night though. Like, and I'll be honest, this is something I had made fun of like my spouse and my roommate and other friends before, but I played Power Wash Simulator for an hour and a half.
We were laughing at some of these games sound funny. Like there was one that was like a traffic simulator, and we're like, what?
Yeah. I was like, what are you doing that for? And then I was like, well, it's, you know, they had it. I turned it on. And the next thing you know, it was like 2 hours later. And I just watched somebody's yard.
Yeah. Yeah, there's, you know, it's interesting when I'm playing. There's a couple of games where the mundane stuff turns out to be interesting. I really love the Kingdom Come Deliverance, especially the sequel that just came out. And there's a lot of that kind of menial task stuff that is shocking can become interesting.
So this is, I mean, well, okay, this was one of the games that you mentioned, but also, which like this is just cheating. Like, yeah, you're an Assassin's Creed fan, so I know you're playing Assassin's Creed. And you mentioned that Odyssey is one of your favorites.
It's my favorite game, hands down. I joke that I only play other games to refresh myself to come back to this game. And if you're an Assassin's Creed fan, you might think I'm crazy because this game was really hated by a lot of Assassin's Creed fans because it got so far away from sort of the original concept. But I wasn't playing that at the time. To me, I was just playing the game as the game.
Okay.
You know, and now in retrospect, I'm going, oh, okay, I get why conceptually people weren't into it. But there's been this whole kind of look back now of people going, you know, we were wrong about the game. It's freaking great. It might not be like a typical Assassin's Creed game. Yeah, like the gameplay is super. It's great. If you like Greek, not just Greek mythology, but just Greek culture, ancient Greek culture, like one of the reasons I got into this game was I was watching professors teach about ancient Athens using the game because they recreate the Acropolis and the city and parts of Sparta and like really like famous parts of history that are either known or lost. And they recreate them so tightly that professors are using it to teach in classes.
Really?
And one of the things you can do is you can take a tour of ancient Greece. So like you're not playing the game, but there's like an ancient Athenian walking you through like a house of a working class farmer and showing you the tools that they use, taking you through like the elite's house and showing you like how they operated, taking you to like a tannery, right? And they're showing you like what tools they use to dye their clothes and stuff. Like, so there's like,
wow.
And then the gameplay itself is fascinating, specifically because I don't know what's happened in games, but in the past 5 years, there's been like a backwards movement from the facial expressions and a lot of the NPC stuff.
Yeah.
So the characters in here, first of all, you have two characters you can play as the main characters. One, Alexio, and well, they're both named Alexio, something like that. And the females was the true lead of the series, and she's basically like playing Xena, and she's great. The guy is kind of a dumbass, right? And like at first you're like, he's so douchey and stupid. I don't want to play this. But then after a while, it became like Ash from Army of Darkness.
Oh,
right.
Okay. Yeah.
So like talking, I realized, oh no, he's way more fun. Like she is perfect. She's Wonder Woman. If you want to be perfect, a perfect Wonder Woman character, and she has some great comical moments as well. But he's unintentionally funny, and
that's fantastic.
So he's a lot of fun to play. And then the actual relationships with the other characters are great, and specifically the non-player characters. And I don't just mean the NPCs that you talk and have conversations with, but like the people living in the cities and stuff. You watch them and they start to feel really, really real to you because they have their own, a lot of games, they'll have their own sort of pre-programmed tasks that they do.
Right.
But there's another level of that here. And characters, sometimes when they leave one part of the map and go to another part, I followed one of them and they don't disappear, because they
what?
Because like you'd think they just pop up on the other side of the map, right? Because you're not supposed to be following this character, but if you do, they literally take the time to run all the way over to this place. So after a while, like I really started to get a feeling, unlike any other game I ever played, that I needed to protect the NPCs. Like I felt really like they were living. There's some Matrix level stuff going on in this game.
Oh my god.
So I just love it up and down. I replay it all the time. I wish they would just keep making more.
I'm gonna start paying attention to that because now I'm thinking like I told you I was also playing Baldur's Gate, but I don't know that I've paid enough attention to the NPCs to see what their characteristics are or their in-game life habits. I want to see what they do.
That's how good this thing was. And like, there's other games I'll play. Like, I'm typically not like, I don't want to be a sociopath in my video games, but sometimes, somebody's in the way and they gotta die. But it got to a different level in this game where I was like, no, it's important not to let, bystanders get killed by your battles and stuff like that, and became invested like in a way I just don't. And it's also just beautiful. Like you're in Greece. Like you go to the Mediterranean, white beach sands, crystal clear waters. It's incredible.
Man. That sounds all right. Well, now I guess I got to check that out too.
That's another one you can get for a really good price.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if between my household we have it already. I just have to go look for it. We got a lot of games over here, yo.
Yeah.
Have you ever went fully like evil in any game? Like
I tried and I hated it.
I can't do it, man.
Yeah, it was in another game I absolutely loved was Kingdom Come Deliverance. Mm-hmm. So or Deliverance 2. And I'd beaten the game, so I'm restarting it again. I'm like, all right, now I'm just gonna make all the choices that I wouldn't have made before.
Right.
I didn't. It's an interesting psychological game. Like,
I couldn't do it in Fable. I couldn't do it in Mass Effect. Certainly can't do it in Baldur's Gate. I try and then I stop like maybe 20 minutes in. Like, nope, can't do it.
Yeah, and then the rating's so good in Kingdom Come Deliverance where like at first I'm raiding all these like bandit camps, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm killing these dudes and I'm taking their shit because they're bandits. Right. But then story stuff will start to happen where you'll learn who some of these bandits are and why they're doing what they're doing, and you start to learn some really hard lessons, and then you're like, oh damn, that's some good writing. That's some really good writing to make you like think twice about who the bad guys are, right?
Yep. You get that right.
Yeah.
So, video games, boy.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just to say, like, I'm not. It's only recently that I'm even allowed to call myself like a gamer because for the longest time, I was only playing like at night, basically when I'm just burned out from drawing all day and stuff. And even then, it was only a couple games we were playing. For years, I only played really Assassin's Creed, Witcher 3. That was kind of it. And then there was these little games here and there and stuff. But really, those were the only two games I was playing for the longest time. So like months on end, just playing those games because they're really immersive and they're beautiful. And then it was hard playing some other games. Another one I want to suggest real quick.
Yeah,
it's a completely unique experience. I've never had this experience playing a game before, and I don't think I'll ever play it again. It's this game called Indica, Indika, and you're playing a Russian nun in like the turn of the century, like early 1900s. And it is a mind trip. It is like when you get to the end of it, because it's very linear, story driven, kind of a walking simulator again. A lot of like spiritual / psychological stuff going on. So, and by the time you're done, you see the end coming, you're going like, no. And then it ends and you're just like, oh my God. And then it stays with you. Right. And this rarely ever happens. So that's another game I would highly recommend.
Making a note of that right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not too long. and it is an absurdist.
Oh gosh.
Dark.
Even the picture of it on Steam is wow.
Yeah, that's what got me into it. And then the game is like this, and you're a nun who is like, she's also kind of messed up in the head, so she's seeing things, and there's spiritual stuff going on, but none of it is like heavy-handed religious stuff, but it is heavy-handed religious stuff, and it's like, it is just out there, and I've just never had an experience like it before, and it can never be repeated either.
Okay, I'm not going to show it to y'all. Y'all Google it yourself. Not people here in the video. Just
it's disturbing.
But I'm interested. I think I can get some. I can probably play this and maybe get my wife to watch it with me. Or
tell me if you do. Yeah, tell me if you do.
I will.
It has some surprises in it. Yeah, for sure.
So you play games to unwind after, like, obviously creating and doing, creating comics. And I assume that's a good chunk, a majority of your day. And then do you map out some time where you allow yourself to like get into games, or do you just do it naturally?
I'd say I do it naturally just because I work so much. And you've talked about this before. Taki has MS, so I'm a full-time caregiver as well. So like my work is a lot of start and stop. Like it's kind of spread out throughout the day and stuff. Right. So by the time I'm ready to play a video game at night, like it doesn't feel like I'm taking away from anything. I think the only time that happens is like when Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 came out, I did lose about a week of work.
Yeah,
I did use some real time there. There were times where I was playing in the middle of the day, which is usually I just wait till like 8, 9 o'clock at night.
It does depend on it does depend on the game for me. You're right. Like there are definitely I normally wouldn't do that, but like if a certain game's coming out and I'm like I need to be in this world, I will come up with all sorts of ways to make time for that game. Like when the new Mass Effect drops, don't expect to hear from me for like the first.
I won't.
It's not. I'm not be all up in there. So this helps you unwind. And are there any other things like what do you do to keep balanced and like with work and then your responsibilities in this crazy world we live in? Like how do you maintain your mental health? I guess.
I mean, the work does a big part of that, especially from writing. The work does it too because it is mostly my own work, as opposed to work for hire. Right. So there's a sense of control there that you don't get in the rest of the world. I'm controlling what happens on the page. I'm controlling what I'm choosing to illustrate and what not to illustrate, or what to write and what not to write. So there's that sense of self. The only thing I can control in this crazy world. And the other thing I do is I like to walk. That helps keep me in some kind of shape because I'm not running or lifting weights or anything. So the walking helps get a lot of thinking done.
Music or no music?
Oh, music all the time. Yeah.
When you're walking, okay, word up.
Yeah, or if I'm in. So this is the opposite of mental health.
Yeah.
I will often dive into the worst parts of TikTok, looking for the most negative reinforcement I can possibly find.
Oh my God.
So it's sort of like this, like, instead of like hiding from the darkness of the world, like it's just all like, Midas Touch podcast telling me the worst thing that so-and-so just did. And, and like, it's weird. It's like piercing a boil of anxiety, So I'm either listening to like Washed Out, some really chill electronic music, or I'm listening to about how, we're all going to die. And, I don't know. Like, maybe it's the Jersey in me. I just need, as I've gotten older, I've embraced so much positivity. There's some vestige of me that just still needs, the sky is falling aspect.
A little bit. Okay. All right.
I'm not proud. I'm just saying that's what it is.
I see you. I'm watching you now. But no, that's good. And because we all need something. If that helps, if that works for you, more power to you. For maybe I'll give it a shot. I mean, I probably have my own version of that too. I think mine is just on Instagram. And
it's just doom scrolling. That's all. It's just a specific version of doom scrolling. Yeah. But like we said, sort of at the beginning, like I had done some years of therapy. Taki has been in therapy most of her life, so we talk about this stuff a lot. Mm-hmm. And becoming self-aware and self-checking yourself is such a great tool to have. So like even when I'm doing that, I'm aware that I'm doing that, you know, and I tell myself when I should stop, when it's affecting me, when I'm having general anxiety for nothing in particular, and I can feel my thoughts racing. It'll happen, but then, you know, I'm able to like put the brakes on it. It's not a total cure-all or anything like that, but, you know, just, you know, you learn to check yourself, and that really goes a long way. When to recognize that your thoughts are running past, like your id is taking over your consciousness, you know.
Exactly.
And
I noticed that I've become very practiced in recognizing when I have a depressive bout coming on. But the funny thing is, like, I know it's happening because that's when I watch a shit ton of cop procedurals.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
David Walker had that with Bigfoot. He'd be like,
Bigfoot
videos all night, Mike.
Oh my God. Yeah.
We all have our thing, I think.
Yeah, mine is The Rookie with Nathan Fillion. I've watched the hell out of that like a couple of months ago. I think it was after the election. You know, I just started watching The Rookie. Like, yep, this is just it. And, I was like, oh yeah, I'm depressed. Okay, let me recognize. But yes, self-awareness, even when you can't help or when you can't self-regulate, is a great practice to have.
Yeah, it's good tool.
But it does help you. It helps. I mean, at least that's what I think. I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments, people watching this, about what your practices are and how you self-regulate or become aware of what your state is at the time. So, well, I know we got into something heavy, and I don't like to end these shows on a I won't say it's a bad note. I think it's very positive that we were able to talk about mental health and how we cope in this world and what we do. Yeah. But we're coming to the end of the show, and I like to end it with
Avenue, and then we'll take it higher. Hey, we gonna rock on to Electric Avenue. Oh yeah, rock it in the daytime. Electric Avenue. Rock it in the night. Get higher. Electric Avenue. Rock it in my yard. Electric Avenue.
So that's it for us. That's my show, guys, and that it's where I bring on comic book creators or creators that I love and try to get us to get a peek behind the curtains, the brain curtains, to see what makes them tick a little bit. And we learned a lot about Oeming today, didn't we? He's a funny dude.
I will. I'm ready for the apocalypse. I've got my knives sharpened. My forks are ready.
Right? He's got the go bag. Like, you don't mess with this dude, right? it always be the ones that look like this unassuming. Like, he looks so nice, right? But now we know.
I'm not going to kill somebody to eat them.
Just if they're there. If they're like,
I mean, depends on the circumstance.
Yeah, might as well.
I mean, some people look delicious, but it's not say.
That's true. Some people do look delicious in general. Well, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. I'm going to end the show here. I hope everybody watching really enjoyed our time with Mike Oeming and learning about all of his projects. I will put the descriptions and links, and I'll put the links in the description below here. Also to his website. You should go check it out. And what platforms would you like people to follow you on, Mike?
I think Blue Sky and Instagram are the easiest to find me.
Okay, I will put those links to that below as well. And then make sure to come back and watch some music video reactions that I'm going to do with Mike as well. So we'll end the video here. He'll stick around, and then him and I are going to get into some music. So until the next time, thanks for watching. Leave your comments, like the video, subscribe. And also, subscribe to Mike's channel, too, because he be doing some cool shit over there.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. I'll put the link in there. Y'all take it easy. Peace.